Welcome to A Course in Miracles, where you'll discover health and well-being through inner peace. Your host is Eloisa Ramos, EFT master and author of Beyond Self-Esteem, Discovering Your Boundless Self-Worth. Using EFT, the Ramos clearing technique, and the principles of A Course in Miracles, you'll learn how to open your mind to healing and to all that is inherently yours: deep fulfillment, vitality, joy, and inner peace.
Welcome everyone. My name is Eloisa Ramos, and I am happy to be with you today asking, what does wisdom mean? Most of us can think of someone we have known that is quite intelligent, yet has made unwise decisions for themselves. Perhaps we are talking about ourselves. So, we can see that intelligence is not the same as wisdom. When we think of a wise person, we often have it associated with age. If we say that someone is wise beyond their years, we mean that the learning they have acquired is not just intellectual learning coming from books and school, but rather they have an understanding of life itself that others acquire only with time through experience. So, what is wisdom? And why is it that only some people seem to have it, or are only able to exercise it sometimes? To answer these questions, we turn to the study of Chapter 3 of the text of A Course in Miracles, titled The Innocent Perception. Here, wisdom is defined in a very different way, one I had never heard before. Page 38 of the text says, quote, "Innocence is wisdom, because it is unaware of evil, and evil does not exist. It is, however, perfectly aware of everything that is true." Unquote. We are told that wisdom is innocence because it is a viewpoint that is unaware of evil, and so evil does not exist. This idea may seem strange. We may argue, just because innocence does not perceive evil, it does not mean evil does not exist. In this case, we would be believing that evil has existence without regard to whether it is perceived or not. If this were the case, evil would be considered spiritual knowledge or truth, and beyond the mental level of perception. This is not so. At the spiritual level, all is one. There is no separation. That is why it is eternal and infinite. And so, no opposition or conflict is possible there. The concept of evil is defined in terms of attack and opposition to God, truth, goodness, innocence, etc. And so, it must reside at the level where separation has reality, in order for there to be conflicting parts that can attack and oppose each other. Since the belief in separation is part of the ego thought system, which denies spiritual truth, and since separation is necessary for evil to attack or oppose, the concept of evil is part of the ego thought system, which is fear-based. Evil, like all thoughts that are part of the ego thought system, only have reality in our mind because we alone made them, and so value and believe in them. They have no reality in the mind of God, where there is only truth, holiness, and wholeness. For this reason, A Course in Miracles refers to all ego thoughts as false. Evil, like all false thoughts, deny and contradict spiritual truth. But they do not oppose or attack it at the spiritual level. Since false thoughts are based on fear and separation and have no reality at the spiritual level. However, if we give them our belief, we make them real in our mind and miscreate, seeing and experiencing separation and illusion. The innocent mind does not miscreate or project, and so it is not aware of separation nor evil. The innocent perception, which is wisdom, reflects our mind's true nature or self. This self is whole, perfect, without illusion, because it is as it was created. Spirit. To a mind that is whole, the idea of separation is meaningless and cannot be in its awareness. Such a mind is one with everything, and so is aware of everything that is true, because the false thoughts of separation, like evil, are not there. Since false thoughts only have existence in our mind, because we alone made them, if they do not exist there, they do not exist at all. The whole and innocent mind shares God's thoughts, having disowned the false thoughts it miscreated. Without belief in its miscreations, these thoughts no longer exist. As adults, we are free to believe anything we want, true or false. While most of our beliefs and values were learned from our family, culture, and religion, we can still decide to change our mind about them if we want to see differently. So, whether we believe in evil, or for that matter in any of the ego thoughts, becomes a matter of willingness or of making up our mind as to what we want to believe. Love or fear. This can be tough to those of us having grown up believing in evil, if we have it associated with survival and safety. Of course, we would be talking about the survival of our ego body, since our true self is eternal and cannot die. But once we decide we only want to believe in that which is true and loving and reflects truth, we still need to learn to distinguish between the true and the false. This is what we spoke about in our previous program titled, Why Am I in a Healing Crisis?, where we covered the meaning of the Last Judgment, or the final healing of our mind. In the final healing, our mind undergoes a process that enables it to distinguish between its false and true thoughts. Recognizing the truly worthy, it gives value only to the true ones and disowns the false ones, which were miscreations made manifest in experiences of lack, attack, fear, and death. The split in our mind is finally healed and our mind stops misperceiving. It is aware now that it is totally innocent, and that is what it sees. The world of perception has no choice but to reflect back everything that is true for us. Page 38 continues, quote, "Innocence is not a partial attribute. It is not real until it is total. The partly innocent are apt to be quite foolish at times. It is not until their innocence becomes a viewpoint with universal application that it becomes wisdom." Unquote. Until innocence is total, it is not real and does not become wisdom. If we are partly innocent, then what is real for us is that we are guilty, bad or evil. Guilt will be real until we are completely innocent, without a doubt, and see everything and everyone that way. Otherwise, it is not wisdom. It must apply universally to everything without exclusion. Wisdom, then, is absolute or unlimited innocence, which perceives everything as perfect. Judging is impossible since there are no opposites, degrees, or differences. The difficulty we have in understanding something as unlimited is that our conceptual mind defines most of our concepts relative to their opposite and in terms of differences and degrees. For example, something is higher because we are comparing it to something that is lower. They can be joint possibilities. For example, if I got a 90% grade on my test, I can say it is higher compared to the 79% I got on the previous test. But if I compare it to the 94% on my first test, then it is lower. I can then say that the 90% is both lower and higher in relative terms because I am comparing it to different things. I can also say that it is pretty good performance, but it could still be better since its goodness is a matter of degree. The closer to 100%, the more good it would be. But there are some concepts that do not have an opposite and are not relative or subject to degree. These concepts are all true or all false. They are unlimited. Innocence, as it is used in Chapter 3 to describe wisdom, is such a concept. Page 38 says, quote, "I have stated that the basic concepts referred to in this course are not matters of degree. Certain fundamental concepts cannot be understood in terms of opposites. It is impossible to conceive of light and darkness, or everything and nothing, as joint possibilities. They are all true or all false. It is essential that you realize your thinking will be erratic until a firm commitment to one or the other is made. A firm commitment to darkness or nothingness, however, is impossible. No one has ever lived who has not experienced some light and some thing. No one, therefore, is able to deny truth totally, even if he thinks he can." Unquote. Concepts like light, darkness, everything, nothing, and total innocence cannot be defined in terms of opposite or degrees because they imply wholeness, no lack, and no limitation. They are either totally true or totally false. If there is light, there can be no darkness at the same time. because darkness is the absence of light. If light is present, it is not absent at the same time. And so there can be no darkness. Darkness cannot exist if there is light. Light and darkness contradict one another, but do not oppose or conflict. When one is real, the other is not, and so they cannot attack each other. This may seem counterintuitive because most of us are very familiar with movies like Star Wars, for example. There, the light force and dark force battle each other and win people's minds to one side or the other. Light and dark vehemently oppose each other, so they would have to be on opposite ends. Opposites are defined relative to each other on opposite ends of a spectrum, like positive and negative, good and bad, and pride and shame, for example. The loss of one leads you to the other, but they go together because they are defined in terms of each other. This may be difficult to see with concepts like light and darkness, since we have grown up with dimmer switches on electric lights. With a dimmer, it can appear that by lowering the power of the light, we are increasing darkness, implying that light and darkness are on the same spectrum, and that dimming the light brings in darkness to include it together with a light. But that is not the case. The point here is, as long as there is some light, no matter how dim it is, you are not in darkness. Light would have to be completely absent for darkness to exist. Otherwise, it is light that has existence. They cannot both exist and have reality together. The same idea applies to the concepts of everything and nothing. The concept of nothing becomes meaningless if there is everything. And if there is nothing, you cannot have even a little bit at the same time. Similarly, a degree or piece of everything is impossible. Everything can have no partial attributes precisely because it includes everything. So, it is everything or nothing, one or the other. We have said the same thing about truth and the denial of truth. Truth is absolute. The denial of truth contradicts truth. If we deny truth, truth will not be real to us. However, in the denial of truth, we must know truth in order to be able to deny it. Denial of truth is based on knowing truth, and so truth cannot be denied totally, though we think it can. This also applies to light, darkness, everything, nothing, innocence, and evil. Darkness cannot be conceived of without the idea of light, since darkness is the absence or denial of light. The concept of nothing is based on knowing what everything is. Similarly, evil can only be conceived of in contrast to perfect innocence. A mind that has not known perfect innocence could not have conceived of the total lack of it or evil. Wisdom is the recognition that perfect innocence is truth, that it is whole and perfect like light in everything, and so what contradicts it does not exist. Evil is illusion, not a true creation. Innocence and evil are not on a spectrum where they can be joint possibilities, and it would be possible for someone to be both innocent and evil. We think this is possible, that we can be both innocent and evil, because we believe both innocence and evil have reality and can exist together and conflict. This thinking just tells us our mind is split, believing and giving value to both innocence and evil. The perfectly innocent cannot harm and shed only blessings because their split mind has been healed and is whole, without lack, and completely holy, without guilt. For this reason, total innocence is referred to as the state of grace. Grace and wisdom belong to the healed mind that is no longer split and has made a firm commitment to universal truth. It no longer holds any false thoughts, and so it is not split. The atonement, God's plan for salvation, arose from such a whole mind. The perfectly innocent recognize there is only one mind, which we share with God. Page 38 says, quote, "The atonement radiates nothing but truth. It therefore epitomizes harmlessness and sheds only blessing. It could not do this if it arose from anything but perfect innocence. The resurrection demonstrated that nothing can destroy truth. Good can withstand any form of evil, as light abolishes forms of darkness." Unquote. God's plan for salvation, the atonement, epitomizes harmlessness and sheds only blessing because it arose from perfect innocence, which is founded in truth and love. The truth is, we are whole, loving, and totally innocent spirit, created in the likeness of our Creator. The resurrection demonstrated that what is true in truth cannot be destroyed. It is eternal. In accepting the atonement, we take responsibility for the creative power of our mind and make a firm commitment to choosing love instead of fear. This decision and commitment is necessary because we are perceiving both love and fear as real or joint possibilities. We practice and demonstrate to ourselves through forgiveness that this is not so. By forgiving, we recognize that what my brother did to me never occurred. What I think my brother did to me is in my mind. I perceived it so. If I see it as evil and fearful, I have misperceived believing separation to be real. Through the practice of forgiveness, our mind opens itself to have the truth of its oneness revealed. By understanding that evil is not outside itself, because there is no separation in truth, it knows itself as something that cannot be attacked. Evil cannot attack truth. What it seems to attack is not truth, but illusion. When we see ourselves as ego bodies, our mind is miscreating and giving separation reality. We will see evil because we are seeing with the eyes of a self that is also unreal. The unreal ego body perceives the illusion of evil because it does not know itself truly. Only in illusion does evil conflict and attack what is good. A mind that has not made a firm commitment to light, truth, and everything miscreates and experiences suffering and attack. We suffer attack precisely because our mind is not in its right mind, believing itself to be an ego body that is separate. Perfect innocence is the true state of the mind that knows itself to be the Christ, the Son of God, and so shares in God's perfectly loving and innocent nature. Page 38 continues, quote, "The innocence of God is the true state of the mind of His Son. In this state, your mind knows God, for God is not symbolic. He is fact. The understanding of the innocent is truth." Unquote. The wise mind understands truth and so knows itself truly and knows God truly to be completely harmless and innocent. The wise know this not just symbolically as a concept in their mind, but in truth or fact with a capital F. They know it with everything in their being. They know truth and love with certainty. The wise have found certainty in committing wholly to truth. Their decisions will be wise because they are not separate from God. Without separation, they are never alone and cannot miscreate. They create truly because they think with the mind of God. And with this, we conclude our program for today on what does wisdom mean. Join me, Eloisa Ramos, next time as we continue the study of Chapter 3 of the text of A Course in Miracles. Blessings, everyone.
For more information about EFT, muscle testing, working with Eloisa, and to download a free version of the Ramos Clearing Technique, visit www.healingwitheft.com.